Welcome to this second video in the multi-part series on Absolute Data Groups R4i IPD Manager. Illustrated Parts Data Manager automatically generates IPD data modules from your engineering content and creates S1000D illustrated parts data modules with hotspot information for use in IETP deliveries. In this second video, Reeta will demonstrate the settings available that allow for a dynamic build of the IPD data modules, placing them directly into the R4i CSDB for review.
Thank you, Tammy. As Tammy has indicated, I'm going to demonstrate how IPD Manager can convert your engineering source content, such as CSV files, into IPD data modules. With IPD Manager, at the time you convert your content, you can automatically add the converted content into your CSDB. Firstly, I'm going to go into my Settings tab and set up my CSDB connection. Okay, so I want to identify the CSDB that I'm going to add my content into, and I'm going to put in my username and password for that CSDB. We would recommend that you have administrator privileges for the CSDB so that you can have this. Once you've identified the CSDB connection, you can now configure what's going to happen with the converted content. I can indicate if I want the content to be checked in or published into the CSDB. I can also configure what is my status, so depending on the details that have been configured inside your CSDB for the status settings, you can click onto the drop-down list and select what is the appropriate level of QA status or status for this particular conversion. I can also remove local files, so that means that once the content has been converted, I can physically get the IPD Manager to remove that converted content. And I can also do a binary comparison. With the binary comparison, it means that I can get the system to check to make sure that if the content already exists inside the CSDB, has it changed? And if it has changed, it will then overwrite that content and it will increment the internal version number. If the content does exist but it hasn't changed, then it will leave the content as it is and leave the internal version number to the current version. As well as doing that, we can then also make some additional processing settings options. So we can move our data files. This means that we'll remove the source files once they have been converted. This prevents the files from being reprocessed time after time. Next is prompt for preview, and this allows the IPD Manager to display the results of the conversion. When running a batch of files, you would not use this option. If you have only one file, you can use the prompt for preview so that you can look at the results of the conversion. Next is auto process. This is the big power of IPD Manager. This means that the application can be running on a server or another machine and will monitor your source directory. As the content is added to the source directory, IPD Manager will automatically process that content and add it to the CSDB if you've got the check-in function set. Next is overwrite duplicates. If the file already exists, you can set the overwrite duplicates. If you've created content that is a duplicate, then this setting will override the original content with the updated content. The last process option is that you can create empty modules. We can create those if they're required. Once we've done our process settings, we then come into our advanced settings. And inside here, this allows us to configure some additional settings for IPD Manager. Well, these functions are use local style sheet. So with that, we can have the information of, are we going to use the local style sheet or are we going to use the CSDB style sheet? This means that if we're going to use, if it's set to false, we're going to use the CSDB style sheet, and it's going to be whatever is associated with the IPD doc type inside the CSDB. The next one is our hotspot attribute. You can indicate which is going to be the attribute you're going to use for your hotspots, and the choices are either the application structure name or the application structure ident. I'm going to leave it at the name. The last option for the preview settings is the image panel alignment, and this is where we can indicate on which side of the preview window the image is to be displayed, on the left or the right. Next, we have our document data. This is the additional information that was written into the ID status block of the data module. And the details that are here are, first of all, our security classification. As per the S1000D specification, this is a mandatory field and must have a setting between 01 and 99. You would refer back to your business rules for that information. The next two fields are our RPC and originator. Our RPC, or Responsible Partner Company, and originator are going to use the cage codes for those fields. The next is our Brex ref. If this is set to default, as per my example, this will mean that we're going to use the S1000D bicycle Brex inside your converted content. You can click on the lookup button and navigate to your own Brex and select this if you wish to use your own Brex. The last section is our Larsen Auto Hotspotter settings. This is if you are using the Larsen tool to hotspot your graphics. You need to enable it and then indicate the executable path and config file path. Once this has been set, the Larsen tool will then be able to hotspot your graphics. Click OK to cancel your advanced settings. Once this information has all been set and configured, you're now ready to run the conversion. Luckily, this is a set once and then forget. Now you can have multiple mappings, as I've got inside my IPD manager, and depending on the content that you are needing to convert, you can choose which one it is. For this demonstration, I'm going to use this mapping here. You simply click on the run, and it will then allow you to process all of the converted content inside your source directory. At this point in time, it is then converting all of your CSV files into S1000D version 4 IPD data modules. You can see during this process that there are 9 files that are being processed. On the completion, you can see that in the activity log, all of that information has been written. Now, to be able to preview that information, we simply click onto the preview button. This will open up your sample or source directory, and for each instance that you run your IPD manager, you'll get a subfolder, and inside that subfolder you will have all of the converted data modules that you've selected, and you can see that we've got our 9 files here. Simply locate the one that you wish to look at and click open. Now it's using the style sheet that's stored inside my CSDB to be able to display that content. And inside that content, we can now see that the content has been displayed. We can see our graphics, and we can see the hotspotting that's then working. This concludes this presentation.
When you need to deliver mission-critical information, ADG's software, training and professional services will assist you to deliver on time, every time. Aerospace, defence, legal or engineering, your requirements are as unique as your organisation. We are smart content. We are ADG.